So I wanted to take some time to explain the meaning behind my paintings, specifically my interface paintings. So first, my biggest inspirations are pop artists from the 50s and 60s, Jasper Johns, Rauschenberg, Lichtenstein, Boucher, all those guys. And at the time, especially with Warhol, how he actually quoted it himself, he painted Brillo pads and Campbell soup cans because it was what was familiar to him, and it was what he ate every day, and it was what a lot of Americans ate every day. And he painted what kind of represented mass consumer culture at the time. And I would say the modern equivalent of the Brillo pads and the soup cans are not physical anymore, or even Coca-Cola cans. It's not physical anymore. They're more so the Google and Uber and Tinder of today. And I also choose to paint what I'm familiar with, products that I use on a daily basis, and what not just hundreds of millions of Americans, but billions of people around the world use every single day. And in particular, I have a huge fascination and appreciation and respect towards the iPhone. And it's single-handedly, I believe, one of the most successful businesses or successful products of all time that reaches hundreds of millions of people around the world. And it doesn't matter what country you're in or what language you speak, you can pick up an iPhone and use it. And I almost view technology as a universal language. And I believe the world is going through an incredible change of globalization, where there's traditionally in the hundreds of years, there's thousands of years leading up to now, we've had separate cultures and they barely kind of talk to each other for the majority of the last, say 5,000 years, right? And only now with the internet and with mass communication, we're able to communicate. But before it was all disparate. And really, if you look at history, it's the technology that is the glue that unites all of us together. And I think it's so crazy that such a small product, such as the iPhone that just fits in the palm of your hand, it's getting bigger and bigger now, but something so small could connect people like that. So it's a modern phenomenon, and I don't think enough people just stop and think about it, just how powerful this thing is, and just in the relative short amount of time, how it's been able to make such an impact. So that's the number one reason I paint what's familiar to me and what's modern now. And secondly, and also the globalization, which is why I do a lot of my paintings in series. So they're not, for example, this particular piece with the not the voice recorder, but the Answer Decline series. I have that same painting in 5 languages, and you'll notice a lot of the paintings that I do are it's the exact same thing, just in multiple languages. And the meaning behind it is that I'm trying to represent this globalization and mass consumer culture. Secondly, it always ties back to my fascination with time. It's something that just never stops flowing. No matter what happens, it keeps ruthlessly flowing. And I try to depict that in the paintings. And I see it when I go to museums and I see these pieces that are painted 60 years ago or 50, whatever, however long. And they're just in front of you, and it's almost like this thing traveled through time. And for some reason, that is really intriguing to me. And so when I paint something, I always just visualize it in a museum or wherever, it's somewhere, it's just going to exist. It's something that's relatively permanent. And by painting something, or I thought it was a big contrast of modern software, and just me coming from also that background of designing software and building software, I understand that it's something so ephemeral. Unlike, again, drawing back to Andy Warhol, unlike Campbell Soup Can and Coca-Cola, which probably have not changed their formula recipe in 100 years, something like Google, it's constantly changing. Every single second it's changing. And it's changing according to feedback of how people are using it. And one day it might look like something, and then the next day an update might come and it might look completely different. And so I wanted to represent that. And I want my paintings to be intentionally outdated. And in fact, sometimes I choose subjects that will most likely become outdated and look completely different. For example, this voice recorder is a default application within iOS, and with the next iOS update, it might look completely different. And who knows what it will look like even in 5 years to 10 years in a completely different medium. So much like how we look at old technology today, like pagers or even dial-up internet, all those things, it's I want to trap it in time. Even like what I'm recording right now, it's capturing me at this age with everything going on in my head in this moment of time. It's like capturing modern society, contemporary society, what people are thinking about now, into a painting, so people can look at it later on. Now, the third reason, and this might perhaps be, I guess, more relatable to people, is that I believe the digital screen is basically an infinitely reusable blank canvas onto which anything can be painted on. And we, on a daily basis, imagine all the different applications and things that appear on your screen. And before screens were possible, everything was printed out, and before then, everything was written out, scribed out. And I think it's also just amazing that we have this thing in our hands that's capable of just displaying anything, any piece of information in the entire world can be drawn on it. And so I treat it basically as a canvas. And so, yeah, again, painting ephemeral digital screens onto physical permanent canvas is also ironic, and I like that. Now, the fourth reason, and this might be the most important for me, is I paint them because I want to, and I like it. So regardless of what people say, I like painting them, and I will continue to paint them until I run out of all my money, or my arm falls off, or my eyeballs fall out of their sockets. I'll continue to paint them. And much like everything else, I guess, all the other products, or anything that I want to make, I just really like making them. And I've chosen to paint this subject and continue to do more so other subjects. But again, I touched on this before, but I think art is something that just helps us see through the lens of the creator. And I'm hoping, or not even hoping, but I'm creating all these things. And if people look at it, maybe they can get a sense of what I'm thinking. And if they can also glean some of the meaning behind it and what I'm trying to represent with all this technology, that's great. But again, more importantly, I just like it. If you don't like it, just don't look at it. So I just have so many, the only thing is I have so many ideas of what I want to create and paint, and only so much time. So just gotta get out there and try to make as much money as possible to get some help in painting all these and having my ideas come to life, or just not sleep and just make all of them. I'm hoping by the end of this year, I'll have at least like 30 to 50 paintings. And because they all come in a series, they just take up a lot of time. And another thing is, for the more international series pieces, things that are in series, I would not want to, if I ever do decide to sell them, I would never sell them by itself. I think it's as a whole set. So yeah, there's some of the more one-off pieces. I also sometimes do more conceptual works, and so these are just the screenshot paintings that I'm talking about. But I also enjoy doing conceptual pieces, and those are more of like an homage to the to conceptual artists like John Baldessari. I really enjoy his work. I want to create art that makes people just think, and not just something pretty to look at or just put into your home, but kind of almost not even questioning art, but just making people think and wonder. So that's my mission. I'm just gonna keep on making them, like it or not.